Hello again, this is Matthew again from the Indiana Jones and the Seven Cities of Gold development team, and I'm gonna go on with this series of tutorials on how to achieve proper perspective in 2D adventure games. So in the previous lesson we saw the difference between the three types of perspective: 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, which also includes 0 point. But anyway, so now I'm gonna do this extra lesson about what I call curved perspective. I don't know what is the proper name, the real name, but you will see very easily what it is about. So let me take back the file from the previous lesson. So I still have my viewport here. I have the mask around to allow me to travel around, and I have my horizon line. So now I'm going to represent a scene. Imagine, so like I did previously, this represents the scene as seen from above. Okay, this is a top view of the scene I'm gonna draw, and imagine that within this scene there is a wall. All right, which is often the case in adventure games. Very often you see the wall enclosing the scene in the background. Behind the character there is a wall. Anyway, so this is the wall seen from above, so it's just a thin line. All right, so now in my viewport, how do I see this wall? It's in front of me, so I will see this. It's just a rectangle. Okay, it's facing me. No matter what perspective it is, 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, if it's facing me, it's gonna be a rectangle. However, so I am the character. Okay, so imagine that this is my head as seen from above. Okay, I've got a pretty pink head, and I am watching this wall. It's in front of me, so my view is like this. If I am the camera, I have an arrow pointing forward and the wall is just in front of me. But now imagine that I'm turning my head to the left. So instead, I'm looking at the wall like this. Alright? So I'm just going to represent that in my scene. I'm going to use a 1 point perspective. Actually a 2 point perspective. I'm gonna see the wall like this. Okay, it's slightly rotated from my perspective, and as I said, it's gonna be 2 points. So I'm not gonna draw the vanishing line, but you can easily imagine how it is. So this is the side of the wall. Okay, just so that you understand better what I'm drawing, it's actually three different bits of wall. Each one, slightly with an opening in between each piece of wall. So this is the middle wall. Whoops, sorry. It's the middle one. It's this one. This one is the left one. It's this one. Okay, and I'm gonna draw the third one. Once again with my nice vanishing lines. So the third one is what I would see if I turn my head that way to the right. So I'm gonna see I'm gonna see this. Sorry, I'm gonna do it better just so that it doesn't ruin my demonstration later. I need to be careful. Okay, so this is nice. This is my third piece of wall, and once again 2 point perspective, so I need to draw the side of the wall, but I don't bother drawing the vanishing lines. So this piece of wall will be I don't know, pink. Alright, so pink wall, here you are. So I have the important thing to understand is that originally it was the same wall. Okay, all three bits are orientated in the same direction. They are all facing me, but it's just the angle of the camera that will make them look different depending on the angle, depending on the direction into which I'm looking at. So if I'm looking to the left, it will be distorted that way, blue style. If I look in front of me, it will be distorted. Well, it's not distorted, but virtually it could be distorted. So it's distorted yellow style, and if I look to the right, it's distorted pink style. But it's still the same direction, still the same angle. All three bits are facing me exactly. So this whole situation is the result of an illusion, because my eye is a globe, okay? So everything, imagine that I'm looking in front of me, I'm facing the yellow bit. Everything that will be on the sides of my vision will be distorted, because obviously if it's on the side, the angle is different. So if you imagine now that this was a single wall, a single piece of wall like I drew at the beginning, if I want to represent it perfectly, I can take into account this distortion. I can decide to include it, or I can decide to not include it. Okay? So if I decide to include it, this wall would be actually curved. That's the whole point. It becomes curved. So it's like this. So what it means is that no matter if you draw a 3-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 1-point perspective, whatever, every dimension, instead of being straight lines, can be curved lines. Okay, so they go from one vanishing point at the very end on one side to another vanishing point at the very end on the other side, and it's tied together by this curved line, and it works for every dimension. For example, I did it for the horizontal dimension, but I can also do it for the vertical dimension. Imagine that what I'm looking at is a skyscraper. Okay, so if I'm a tiny person looking at this skyscraper, it will appear like this. It will be a curve. So here I have the top of the skyscraper. Alright, you see, so you can imagine all the little windows there, and the more I look up, the tinier they are and the closer they are to one another. Same thing here, many windows, more and more close to each other, and tiny. So if I look up, it gives me this, but I can perfectly imagine that I'm halfway. Imagine I'm a window cleaner. Okay, so I'm in the middle of the skyscraper, and if I look down, I'm on my little I don't know how you call this. Anyway, so I look down and I see this. I see the bottom of the skyscraper, and at the very bottom I see the street. And actually you can see that I drew some parallel lines there and there, but if I was consistent with myself, and if I applied my curved perspective all the way through, it would be curved line like this. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about this curved perspective, but what you need to remember is that it can be there in any type of perspective you choose, and most of the time you won't choose to do curved perspective, but you will choose to do that when you want to represent a scene that's much bigger than what the eye can see. When you're a tiny watcher, and the scene goes all the way to the limits of your field of view. Okay, so there is an angle between what's facing you and what's really at the sides of your field of view. That's pretty much it. I'm not gonna go into details. We're gonna see later some interesting examples where this has been used in adventure games. Thank you.